Let me ask you this. Suge was quite outspoken. He gave me names. He said that he mentioned Obama. He said Obama and Diddy were close friends. He even indicated they had a relationship, sexual relationship together. Obviously he spoke about Justin Bieber and Usher and all that. Is there anybody that you know that you feel you can talk about that was at these parties or affected by anything?
Well, so I am aware that Leonardo DiCaprio has a...
You already know what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, TikTok, you up to bet. Bow. It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we got to do. You got to hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. Think rich in 2026. Think rich in 2026. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. We back with another one, man. Hey, before we get into this, make sure you tap into my TikTok. It's litty. I'm telling you, live trash or pass. There's a lot of stuff going on over there, man. Well, we back with another one, man. We got another conspiracy, crazy. It's gonna be some crazy stuff in this one, man. You make it to the end of this one, you a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments, man. But let's go ahead and get into it. Fire Squad, what's poppin'? Let's get it. Before we get back into the video, I want to tell you guys a quick and easy way that you can make money just by playing games on your phone. Free Cash is a program that helps games and apps to find new users. So how it works is the companies get paid just from you playing the games. But where Free Cash comes in is they take some of that money and they reroute it to you. Now, this is not a get rich quick scheme. You actually have to play the games to actually get the money. So you can either hit the link in my description or you can use a QR code on the screen. Super easy to sign up. All you need is an email and a password. If you use the link, they'll give you $5 immediately to your account, credited to your account by using the link. And it's super easy to withdraw. You can either withdraw through Bitcoin, PayPal, or bank transfer. Super easy. Most people is making like $10 to $20 a day. But if you got some time, you can really lock in. You can see that this game right here is paying $1,020 just to complete it. So it's games out there where you can make some money for real, but you got to lock in and put the time in though. So if you already use your phone to play games and stuff like that, let that phone actually make some money for you too. So make sure you hit that link in the description, hit the QR code, make some easy money, man. Shout out to the squad. Peace.
You know the great thing that pulls you into the dream? The frickin' drama. Oh my God, have you heard the latest? Oh my God. The dramas. There was a guy called Robert Monroe. You probably come across him, yeah. He popularized out-of-body experiences where they went astral traveling. He became so good at it that the CIA built a program, a study program around it called Gateway. Military was involved. And they got people that they believed were skilled at projecting their consciousness into the astral, this dimension I'm talking about. They saw so many reptilian entities in the astral, they called them the alligators, that was the name they gave them, that there are entities in the astral which are feeding off human low vibrational energy. And he gave the name to it, loosh. They're feeding off human loosh. And this is a loosh farm. This is why it's been created. And when you step back from AI mind and the drama, you stop producing anything like the same amount of loosh that you were before. And you realize that almost everything that you thought mattered before doesn't matter now, because it's a dream. It's an induced dream. And we can dream another dream. And it's time we did.
Do your own research.
And then when you realize that they can measure your brain waves with a magnet that doesn't touch your head, you realize that your thoughts are not in your head. And they're part of this greater field that we are all connected by. And they're now trying to understand how we actually store memories, which is a developing process. Some of it is protein-based, and some of it is this theory that we basically store our thoughts in the cloud. So basically you're accessing your own Wi-Fi field. And this is why there is a difference of like meeting somebody in person versus doing something over Zoom. Our biofields are interacting right now. There are low-level frequencies that our brains interact on. So having that biofield, you realize that like you have your own biofield, you are your own Wi-Fi, you emit your own Wi-Fi. And so then thoughts can be the process of some of that Wi-Fi coming in, mostly directed as life force and energy, which is why like how you practice your energy and how you maintain your energy can really direct how your thoughts come out.
This gonna be interesting.
Do you know the gifted and talented program conspiracy theory? You know, it's one of my favorite current conspiracy theories. And admittedly, conspiracy theory. I don't necessarily believe it, but basically the idea, like the GATE program, apparently, and I looked it up, and there does seem to be some connection, was sort of funded by the feds, who it was definitely somehow involved with the government. Basically, now where it goes into conspiracy land, the idea is they wanted to find people, kids early on, who demonstrated certain traits that then they could hire to work in intelligence. And so it's a grooming program for intelligence, like basically. And so all these, and again, I just love these things. If they're real or not, it's still cool.
I heard something about that when I was in high school.
There's been some talk that he had some drinks that were laced with something.
Laced in drinks in the hip hop, entertainment, fashion industry is a big thing.
And what do they lace it with?
Well, previously it was Ruthlin. And then the onset of...
You got to forgive me, homie, but what is that? What is Ruthlin?
Ruthlin, you ever heard the term someone got Ruthlin?
Oh, yeah, Ruthlin. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Ruthlin was like the majority, but, whenever you see guys doing a lot of cocaine, scopolamine is going to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And scopolamine, once you're dosed with scopolamine, a person can take you to the ATM machine. They can say, empty your ATM machine, empty your account. You're going to empty the account out, give away all your furniture. You have no control of yourself until it wears off. And it's usually permanent neurological problems that come from being dosed with scopolamine. So Ruthlin and scopolamine is something I was always leery of, for sure.
You know if that ever happened at a Diddy party?
So I will say this. There are a lot of people in my inbox who are on active indictments toward him who are alleging that this took place. So, recently he came under scrutiny because of liquid GHB. Now, liquid GHB in a very small amount can incapacitate you. Lowers your heart rate to the point where someone may think you're asleep or dead, but you're really not. So there are people in the indictment saying that, he squirted them with baby oil and they passed out.
And and in my thinking, the only reason you would want to do that is to take advantage of somebody, whether it be sexually or any other way.
Right. And what I've grown to understand is any man who does ecstasy for longer than 2 or 3 years, they start to become a sexual deviant. This guy Combs been doing ecstasy for 20 years. And now when he was arrested with a substance called Tusi, which is ketamine, ecstasy, cocaine mixed, and it's dyed to be pink.
Yes.
So,
that's the pink cocaine that now everybody's talking about.
Right.
Wow.
He was arrested with this while being under federal indictment and being monitored. So that goes to show that there's definitely addiction involved, and there's definitely a drug aspect involved as well.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever hear of cyanide being mixed in any of these drinks?
Now, see, whenever people mention cyanide, I get uncomfortable because over a period of 6 years, I had pneumonia 3 times, right? So on the final time, my mom takes me to the hospital. They get a toxicology report done. I test positive for cyanide. The way cyanide metabolizes in the human body is, after a certain amount of dosages, it turns into pneumonia.
Whoa.
Kim Porter, his ex-wife, died from pneumonia.
I heard that.
His ex-bodyguard recently, a few months ago, just died from pneumonia.
Whoa.
And when I first started speaking out about this, there were no podcasts. It's like 2013. There are no podcasts. Social media is really just starting to get ingrained in society. So people told me I was crazy and said I was a hater. But I work hand in hand with law enforcement in my career path. And, they tested my car. My car handles tested positive for cyanide.
Whoa.
So, I don't think a person will use cyanide directly at a party, but cyanide is around. I tested positive for it. I got my toxicology report to this day. So.
And let me ask you, why would you put cyanide in somebody's drink? What kind of behavior would that cause you to, to be?
Yeah, so you feel like you got the flu. You feel sick. You want to isolate yourself from everyone. And your lungs, you're coughing up mucus. Like, throughout history, cyanide poison was a way people got away with murder before the onset of better technology for testing for certain toxins and stuff like that. Cyanide used to be in rat poison. So, there's all type of cold case files. This person, she poisoned her husband over a series of weeks with rat poison. He died from pneumonia. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't invent or embellish. I'm only going to speak on things I can verify to be facts. And, I definitely tested positive for the cyanide. I had pneumonia 3 times. I basically got 1 lung now because
Wow.
So, but this didn't occur at a party for you. I mean, you didn't take a drink at one of Diddy's parties and maybe the cyanide was in one of those drinks.
No, see, because, I've already been privy to certain things. So, it's this footage of me with a bottle of champagne in my hand that I brought with me while I'm with models and stuff like that. Because, it's a scary feeling, bro. Like when you can look at somebody and tell they've been compromised and you can't really explain why. So once me and my team had experienced roofing on our own, we said we can never let this happen again. So we invented some new protocols. If a bottle get brought to a section, if it's opened already, we got to send it back. We would travel with a portable test kit with us.
Wow.
All type of, if people are paying you to protect their life, you got to use every tool that's available to you.
Well, again, without making any definite allegations or pointing fingers, it makes you think why, Kim Porter would have died of pneumonia when Diddy is putting everything else in drinks. I'm not saying he did it. We don't know that, but it raises eyebrows. You got to kind of think about it, why did that happen? And she was relatively young, Kim. I mean, she was a young girl. It's not normal that you die of pneumonia at that age.
Just not normal. Just not normal. And some of the other substances that we mentioned, people will still start partying off of that. Cyanide touch you don't want to party.
Yeah.
So, you almost get a feeling like, man, something's wrong here. But you're not going to think that somebody's poisoning. You're not going to think that, Right. But it definitely happened to me. So, and like in the work that I do to combat human trafficking, I've had bounties on my life. I've had the FBI showing up telling me, yeah, we got information. By law, they got to tell you.
Right.
Had those situations, So, you just kind of get accustomed that you know what you signed up for. So, you just try to take as many steps possible to mitigate risk and hope for the best. Be vigilant.
And I've met Satanists and people that took part in rituals against their will who have told me of their experiences. And these are major players like the Royal Family, British Royal Family, Dutch Royal Family, all that stuff, all major players in this satanic ritual culture. And so then I asked that question I mentioned a few minutes ago. So what do the gods get out of it? I take you back to the first Matrix movie, and the Morpheus character holds up a battery and he says, the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world designed to turn humans into one of these, a battery. And that's when a massive understanding started to come to me from many different sources, which I talk about in the books. These, quote, gods, these entities, are feeding off human energy, but it's a particular type of human energy. This is mainstream science. Again, every time we feel emotion, every time we think, we're generating frequencies. And those frequencies, in terms of what the frequencies are, relate to the nature of the emotion and the nature of the thought. And scientists have worked out what these frequencies are for different emotions, right? And
is that like when you go into a room and you kind of feel like, oh, there's a bad energy in here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, if you go into an old house where there's been a lot of really bad things gone on, see, when the people involved in the bad things are giving off that vibe, and unless someone goes into that house and changes the frequency, they sit there vibrating. So you go into it and you think, oh, this is horrible, God, because you're picking the vibe up, right? So these are the energies I'm talking about. So these entities, by their very nature, are very low vibrational in nature, because anyone that wants to impose their will and manipulate and cause suffering and war and death and destruction is in a very low vibrational state. And if they're going to feed off human energy, they can only feed off it if we are delivering it within the band of frequency they can absorb. Because otherwise, if we were in a world of love and joy and happiness and peace, then we'd be giving off frequencies, yes, but much higher, more expanded frequencies, and they wouldn't be able to absorb them, like radio stations in the old analog system, sharing the same space but not interfering with each other because they're on different wavelengths. To give off the frequencies that they can absorb, we have to be in fear, anxiety, depression, resentment.
And all those things are on the increase.
This one. This is gonna keep you up while you sleep tonight. The hollow moon theory. Our moon really doesn't make sense when you look at the facts. Like, it shouldn't exist. The moon is about 25% of Earth's size, the biggest moon to planet ratio of our entire solar system. Pluto's not a planet, that doesn't count. That's 72 times larger than the expected average moon to planet ratio of our solar system. Moons are just not supposed to be this big relative to their home planet, but sure, maybe we got lucky. Despite this, the moon is only 1% of Earth's mass. 1%, meaning it is way lighter than it's expected to be, and we really don't even know why. Unless, of course, the moon is either extremely porous like a sponge or a hollow shell. When looking at this data, NASA's own Dr. Gordon McDonald even said himself it would seem that the moon is more like a hollow than a homogeneous sphere. But oh, that's just the tip, and we ain't stopping. Our moon's orbit is way closer than that of any of the other over 400 moons in our solar system, and also has a near perfectly circular orbital path. We don't see this on any other planet, which all have moons with wildly eccentric orbits. Our moon also coincidentally appears as the exact same size as the sun in our sky. Despite our sun having a diameter 400 times larger than the moon just so happens to be exactly 400 times closer to us, defying all odds of randomness, but is officially deemed just a cosmic coincidence. The moon also happens to be tidally locked with our planet, meaning its rotational period is the same as its orbital period around the Earth, which is why the same side is always facing us. This one is not so much a coincidence, as tidally locked moons are actually fairly common in our solar system. But it would also be the perfect excuse for the moon to always look the same in our sky and for us to never see what's on the other side, like an all-seeing eye that never ceases surveillance of our planet. We don't even know for sure how our moon even got there in the first place.
Really?
The most common explanation is that the early Earth collided with a massive protoplanet called Theia about 4.5 billion years ago, which was thought to be roughly the size of Mars, and the impact caused the resulting debris to coalesce and eventually form the moon. This is known as the giant impact theory. There's also the fission hypothesis, where an early molten Earth was spinning so fast that a part of it got ejected out into space and became the moon. The capture theory, implying the moon just drifted by Earth and was captured by its gravity. And the accretion theory, suggesting that as the early Earth was forming in its accretion disk, a part of that disk clumped together to become the moon. But when studying rock samples from the surface of the moon, we find out that none of these theories quite make any sense, with other NASA scientists like Dr. Robin Brett further quoted as saying, "It seems much easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than its existence. Like on Earth, the newest rocks are on the surface, and the deeper we go, the older the rocks get, as we would naturally expect to be the case. On the moon, it's the other way around. Soil samples from the moon confirm that older rocks are on the surface, and they get younger the deeper we go. The only time we ever see this inverse relationship of rock layer depth to rock age on Earth is through human interaction, like drilling, digging holes, and boring tunnels. Did the same thing happen on the moon? If the moon was hollowed out from the inside, this older inner rock would be brought up to the surface, and this observation would make sense. The lunar crust is also thinner on the side of the moon facing the Earth and thicker on the dark side of the moon, and researchers still have no idea why. The moon doesn't have a magnetic field, much the same as other planets' moons, but strangely, moon rock samples are strongly magnetized. Craters on the moon are all virtually the same depth, no matter how big or small they are. On Earth, bigger craters naturally go much deeper than smaller ones, as the impact was greater. Not on the moon, almost like there's a solid layer underneath preventing the crater from going too deep. Moon rocks are also much older than the oldest rocks on Earth by millions of years, blowing the fission hypothesis and accretion theory out of the water. The moon contains traces of uranium-236, a radioactive isotope that doesn't occur naturally on Earth, but rather through the highly complicated scientific process of nuclear fission, something that only an intelligent species is capable of. Zirconium, chromium, and titanium are all relatively rare Earth metals, but are somehow quite abundant on the moon. Those three elements are also some of the most durable and corrosive resistant that we know of, perfect for building a massive structure. And they've even done quantifiable experiments that tell us that's exactly what the moon might be. When Apollo 12 was leaving the moon's orbit, they intentionally dropped their lunar lander down to the surface. When it crashed, seismic measurements showed that the moon reverberated and rang like a bell for an hour. They did not expect this. Only hollow objects are expected to reverb like this, especially with something as small as a lunar lander. During Apollo 13, they tested that again with a much larger object, dropping a spent Saturn V booster rocket that impacted the lunar surface. This time, the moon rang for 3 hours, with vibrations going as deep as 32 kilometers beneath the surface, and even got faster the deeper they got. This doesn't happen on Earth, or even solid objects for that matter, and again is only expected to occur on something hollow.
Yo, that's crazy.
It's a lot more than insider trading.
The way they're acquiring wealth.
Correct.
And what other methods?
I mean, this is really going to get me assassinated. It's like I'm not lengthening my lifespan by explaining this stuff. I actually have to be careful that I don't push too hard on the corruption stuff because it's going to get me killed.
Man.
What was the scariest moment of the journey?
Scariest? It didn't happen. It could have been scary. Circuit breaker.
I don't want to be presumptuous here. I can call you Buzz, okay?
That's a legal name, passport, driver's license.
And I am Uncle Coney tonight. Let's talk about this, because this is fascinating. I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does. I remember my parents waking me up, and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon, which was...
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. So you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories. Well,
8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
Did they go to the moon? Yes or no?
If the media does its job and reports honestly, they're the ones that hold our public officials accountable. You know how Jeffrey Epstein was exposed? It was through a reporter. A reporter started nosing around and found out what this guy really was. It was a reporter that did it, doing the job. If the media does their job, a lot of things that go wrong will be exposed because that's what they're trained to do. Not shield, not protect people in government. Their job is to protect the citizens, protect people, and expose wrongdoing by the people in power, because the people in power are the ones that can hurt you.
Whip out your phone right now. Just Google 2025 and go to images. Make sure you're on images.
Movie posters and shit.
What is? It's kind of like apocalyptic kind of thing, right?
The
okay.
world enslaved by a virus.
Okay, hold up. Now Google 2026.
Bugattis, trophies,
glory in a way, like things are going good. Now Google 2027.
There's a storyline already set in motion.
This is how the Simpsons predict everything.
The return of Christ? That's what showed up.
Okay, hold up. Now go to 2028. End of the world. Devil, the devil and Jesus like arm wrestling and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, now go to 2029.
Fucking meteor.
A meteor hits Earth. Go to 2030. This is where it all wraps up.
Aliens? Future civilizations?
A utopia. Aliens come and it's just utopia.
Is that supposed to represent aliens or us going to heaven and the rest?
Couldn't tell you.
Bro, y'all Google that and let me know in the comments, bro.
Sometimes something a little different happens.
Whoops, I'll get it.
Sometimes.
It looks like you're in a studio, maybe in Omaha, Nebraska or something. The shot is so clear. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair?
And we can totally see the hairspray that is quite obviously in your hair. Now keep your eyes right here. He obviously pulls on something, a wire harness, something. Oh my gosh, you guys, look how everything is floating. Look at that.
Except for the water?
Oh, except the water. Don't look at that. Larry?
No.
Larry, you're in the shot, Larry. Can you please do... No, don't put your coffee down.
My question is, how can you operate a lid on the outside of the space station by manipulating something mechanical on the inside of the space station without losing air pressure?
It's called real good engineering.
So a tortilla, a massive tortilla.
No. No.
Let me know when he figures it out.
So they saying we ain't never been to space? Is that what they saying?
Let me ask you this. Suge was quite outspoken. He gave me names. He said that he mentioned Obama. He said Obama and Diddy were close friends. He even indicated they had a relationship, sexual relationship together. Obviously he spoke about Justin Bieber and Usher and all that. Is there anybody that you know that you feel you can talk about that was at these parties or affected by anything?
Well, so I am aware that Leonardo DiCaprio has he's having a lawsuit come up against the Busby lawyer because So right now what's happening is, so you know when they initially raided Combs' home, they did not inform the raiding officers whose home they were going to raid.
I didn't know that.
Right. So that right there goes to show, like, all right, now, this guy have a lot of reach. He could be somebody that's been corroborated previously. So once they got their hands on that footage, you know, there've been laws passed for revenge porn and stuff like that. You can't sell someone's tape without them approving it. So, you know, from my sources, from other close protection operatives, you know, there are a lot of A-list stars right now who are doing what they can to prevent certain footage from coming out, you know. One thing Suge Knight said that I confirmed to actually be facts, because I know this gentleman's part of his security team. Yeah, they came to Ben Affleck and they said, your wife's on these tapes. So that's something I can confirm to be facts.
Whoa.
Jennifer Lopez.
For sure, not confirmed.
On the tapes, meaning that, you mean maybe videotapes, footage, whatever it is they confiscated there?
Yeah, because whenever I meet people like Combs, like, they like to keep trophies. They like to keep memorabilia from these escapades. And, you know, this is something that's a lot more common than people think amongst elite parts of society. Because, like, you know, once a rich guy realizes that, wait a second, no one's going to tell me no. You know, depending on how you're raised and your moral compass and what you believe in, you know, I've seen a lot of guys get off the handle. And I've seen Combs scream, say, I'm a savage. If I want it, I'm going to have it. I don't accept no for an answer. That let me know what I need to know. Because, you know, I've done security for certain guys. And, you know, you show up to their house unannounced and he's in a mascot outfit in the floor with somebody else in a big teddy bear outfit, and they dry on the floor. They call themselves furries.
What?
You know, you'll see a millionaire guy, he gets off by having in a furry costume. So you just never know what people are into.
Yeah.
This guy revealed what he's into.
When you say Leonardo DiCaprio, he's got a lawsuit against BuzzFeed because of something that they said with him regarding Diddy?
Yeah, so the guy BuzzFeed referenced that he had stills of a sexual encounter between Combs and an A-list celebrity with a much higher status than Combs. So it's...
Yo, this stuff is crazy, bro.
I just pulled my script from Eyes Wide Shut. I had a script that was from set, and I was reading it over the weekend, and I saw that it has this... I mean, I've known this for a long time, but I started really thinking about it over the weekend. It's missing a narration. It's missing a third-person narration that was originally in the movie. And that's because the movie was recut and changed after his death. And they will deny it. But as a student of Kubrick, I'm watching the movie and I'm like, oh, Kubrick wouldn't do that. Kubrick wouldn't do that either. Kubrick would have trimmed this scene.
I didn't know they recut it after his death.
Okay, so apparently
I think they finished it.
Well, that's the party line.
That's their version.
That's the party line, but I think that they changed the notes, the close-ups, the inserts of the notes. I think those are changed. It's missing a narration. It's definitely missing a narration. A third-person narration, like that scene where he sees the prostitute who's died. He's at the morgue and he's looking at her and he's like leaning over her. It's a bed for narration. There's this whole thing. What they do instead, because they couldn't say that Kubrick finished the movie because they hadn't done the recording of the narrator yet. And so maybe they just kind of kludged it together, except there's an entire thread that's kind of been squashed in that film, and that's the two men that are throughout the movie that are constantly in the background of the film, who eventually in the final shots of the film you see, like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in that final scene in the toy store when she's looking at the Rosemary's Baby bassinet, which is totally Kubrick saying something, and they never take their eyes off their daughter until the moment they take their eyes off and the final line of the movie is coming up. You see those two guys walking off with the daughter. They're taking her away. They've given their daughter to the cult. That's what's happened at the end of the movie. And there's an incident where when they first screened the movie in England, people who were outside, this is all secondhand, by the way. There were people who were outside of the theater who could hear inside of the theater Kubrick yelling at all the executives and saying, "It's my movie, you can't cut it. You can't fucking cut my film, blah, 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 blah." Big argument going on. Then he dies like 4 days later.
Oh, Jesus.
Bruh, what?
I have a theory that the Mandela effect is used to see how much of history can be altered in front of our eyes. Here's a prime example of one of that. There's this woman on TikTok who was going crazy because she swore the Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia logo. And to the point that even Fruit of the Loom themselves put a timeline of all their logos and it never had a cornucopia. And this woman went hard. Her therapist told her, yo, you need to chill out. You need to just drop this. So she went through all of her old clothing, and lo and behold, she found a shirt with the Fruit of the Loom with the cornucopia logo on it. That shows me like, yo, I think the Mandela effect is an operation that's running around right now to see how much of history can be altered right in front of our eyes without us noticing. And then they gaslight the public and be like, nope, this never happened.
Damn, I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah, bro. People are thinking about it very little. Like, oh, it's the Berenstain Bears or the Berenstein Bears or Jiffy or Jif's peanut butter. No, it's much larger than that, guys. They're using this to see, oh, if we can get people to forget certain primary things about their childhood, what can we do with history?
They already doing what they want to do with history.
Here's the million-dollar question. Do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet?
Right. So non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that.
And so, Carl, that is quite a bold statement. I'm wondering, and I'm curious, how confident are you that that is true?
There's zero doubt.
And Carl, what evidence have you seen? What was the moment where you developed this level of conviction? Because what you're saying is extremely consequential and very important. And I know that a lot of people here, even perhaps, may not believe that statement.
Right. Well, probably a better way to ask that is, how can the folks in the audience come to the, a common understanding of what this phenomenon is? And so there's sort of two tracks here. One is from first principles, and another is actually from the data. So let's take a look at the data. So we can look at some folks that have very high level access to information, like Paul Hellyer, who is the defense chief for Canada, has come out and said the same thing. We can look at Ham Eshed, the head of Israel's, or former head of Israel's Space Force, has said the same thing. Chris Mellon, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Intel, SAPCO, has essentially said the same thing. Lou Elizondo has said the same thing. David Grush has said the same thing. David Grush cleared for presidentially level material. So you're looking at people that are in a position to know this, and they're telling you the same thing. You could take a look at the Gang of Eight in the Senate and in Congress. So there's two members of the Gang of Eight, Marco Rubio and Senator Chuck Schumer, that signed up to the UAP disclosure amendment last year that basically said they're not being told the truth and we need to push forward on that. So that's sort of an overview of some of the data. From a first principles standpoint, what's so unusual about this realization? There's billions of stars in the galaxy. Life here evolved in 500 million years, which is basically a blink of an eye. We've found planets around every star that we've looked at. It's likely that the universe is full of life. If you look at the SETI program in particular, the SETI program has all the same assumptions that you would accept and probably make with respect to this topic, except that they believe that non-human intelligence is transmitting signals here. But at the same time, like, we're not transmitting signals. SETI doesn't transmit signals, and the only signals that are actually broadcast of high enough power into space for somebody to pick up come from broadcast television and ballistic missile early warning systems, which you could argue our technology is moving away from. We're going to satellite, we're going to fiber. Broadcast TV is a thing of the past. And if you get to some state where society is stable, maybe we don't need ballistic missile early warning systems. So the other guy is probably not going to transmit. But what the other guy may do is come here if that's possible to do. And there's physics models that suggest that may be possible.
And Carl, I mean, what you're saying is extremely consequential, and you've referenced other people that have said the same thing that also have similar credibility. There's similar reasons for why we should believe many of these folks, yet the government itself has not formally disclosed. They've been very reluctant to do that. Why? Why do you think that is?
So there's 6 basic reasons, and this, again, you could draw this out from first principles. There's a national security reason. There's the lack of a plan. There's the potential for societal disruption. There's the possibility that there's some non-public agreement. There's the potential for misdeeds and the desire to cover up misdeeds. And there's just the basic organizational intransigence and lack of priority that might be associated with the topic. So all these things are factors. The issue is that really the national security issue subsumes all the others. And so there's an opportunity maybe to contract the national security issue similarly to what was done with nuclear weapons and nuclear energy, such that nuclear energy is not necessarily classified and is available to the public. But lack of a plan and the potential for societal disruption are key ingredients that would prevent any responsible leader from coming forward with information that they don't have the means to address in a responsible way. It would be irresponsible to do that.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you have absolute conviction that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet, that there are factions within our own government that know about this, yet we still don't have a plan, and they may represent a security issue. This may pose a threat to humans, yet you still believe that we should disclose. Is that right?
Correct, right. So there's really 3 reasons that trump all those others. And those others are basically valid, like I said. So the first issue is the moral right. The government exists for and by the people. And so the nature of reality is fundamentally not government information. People have a right to know the world in which we live, and the pursuit of happiness requires that knowledge. So that's sort of the first kind of overarching philosophical foundation for this. But, you know, as a corollary to that, if there are misdeeds that were done, then they need to be remediated. If there's lack of proper oversight, which is suggested by some of the whistleblowers, that needs to be remediated. So the first issue is the moral issue. The second issue is being in a reactive mode is never preferable to being in a proactive mode.
Facts.
So reactive mode is basically trying to prevent disclosure. But failing that, you might get a situation where you have catastrophic disclosure that creates all the problems that you were trying to prevent.
Exactly.
So a more balanced middle path of controlled disclosure is the best way to do this, which is, again, an argument for some amount of disclosure. And the third part is simply societal advance and global competitiveness. More brain trust needs to be brought into this topic in order to make progress and to improve society. And so all 3 of those things together trump the 6 other reasons for non-disclosure.
I completely agree with that, 100%.
The Denver airport theory is so creepy. No one knows why it was built because Denver already had a fully functioning airport in downtown. But this one went $2 billion over budget and took 2 years longer than expected to finish. It's rumored that it cost so much because it has a 5-story underground facility, which might be a doomsday bunker for the elite and rich or something much worse. But airport officials claim that it's just an underground baggage system that was never used. Throughout the airport, there's also disturbing and eerie murals depicting things like destruction and the apocalypse, and several gargoyle statues which are said to be symbols of protection. But the creepiest is this blue Mustang statue named Lucifer. It's 32 feet tall with glowing red eyes, and when the artist was making it, the head fell over him, which instantly killed him. But they still finished the statue and put it up. The airport also has 2 secret runways, which are believed to be used by the government. And there's even a time capsule from 1994 buried inside, which can't be opened until 2094, which might finally explain all of these secrets. What do you think they're hiding in the Denver airport?
A time capsule? What the hell is going on?
I think it's funny how everyone just forgot about that time that Elijah Wood called out all the sickos in Hollywood. He did a few interviews about it, but it ultimately culminated in a tweet storm where he started dropping names, including Ben Savage, and yes, you heard me right, I said Ben Savage, and Harvey Weinstein. But then, apparently, he received a phone call, and it was one single phone call. All the tweets were deleted, and he never talked about it again. Check this shit out.
In a new interview with the Sunday Times, the former child star alleges that has been a real issue in Hollywood. He tells the publication, quote, "There are a lot of vipers in this industry, people who only have their own interests in mind. What bums me about these situations is that the victims can't speak as loudly as the people in power. That's the tragedy of attempting to reveal what is happening to innocent people. They can be squashed, but their lives have been irreparably damaged." The 35-year-old adds, "If you're innocent, you have very little knowledge of the world and you want to succeed. People with parasitic interests will see you as their prey."
I can get a good career doing this. You know, it's going to be good.
Wood says he was not a victim of abuse because his mother Deborah protected him and he avoided those kinds of situations. He goes on to allege that even as an adult in the industry, he has been, quote, "led down dark paths to realize that these things probably are still happening."
Bro, this is crazy.
There was knowledge amongst a certain group of people, mostly who did business with Harvey Weinstein. There are countless women who understood that that's what happened, and there were many people who said, well, that's just Harvey being Harvey.
How serious is it? Is it about one person, one man, or is it a culture?
You and I, and even the likes of the people on the Turner Classic movies, understand that the idea of the casting couch that existed in Hollywood is the part of both myth and concrete reality. Any place there's a boss with underlings in any corporation or any industry, you have a type of sexual politics that goes on that can slide in between appropriate ethics and decorum to inappropriate behavior to the point of harassment and sexual predatory behavior.
Well, I mean, I think people understand that, but the larger question is there a culture of complicity in Hollywood where women are afraid to speak up because they'll be blacklisted, men are afraid to speak up out of the same fear, or they just think, well, this is the way the system works?
I think there are people that say, hey, this is how it works, pure and simple, and this is why I got into it, and this is why I have power. This is how it works, and you have to understand that. That does not carry the day. Complicity. People who know, well, look, this is how we do business, and that's what it's got to be done. I'm sorry it's like that. So beware. That's also present, without a doubt, but it does not carry the day. There's also people that were afraid to speak out, who were victims, that did not go forward, that signed, negotiated settlement deals of which a non-disclosure agreement was part and parcel to it. That also does not carry the day. So the dam has burst here in a big way. And it is not just the halls of places like Harvey Weinstein's office where this was standard operating procedure. And it is criminal, and it is cause for termination. It's also happening in every other corner of not just my industry, but yours and throughout all of America.
You think this is a kind of tipping point?
Well, I think it absolutely is, in which everybody is asking women, what do I put up with and when do I talk about? And men saying, I think we have to live by a code of ethics that we need to think and put down on paper. Don't be surprised if there's going to be a sign in front of every one of the studio gates that will say all people entering this studio will obey this code of ethics or they will be escorted from the premises. And that will all be about sexual harassment and sexual predatory behavior.
Did they start putting them signs out yet?
Who is the most powerful person in America?
Oh, I don't think anybody would probably know their name. They're sort of behind the scenes. But certainly people who own this committee, like Admiral Wilson now, he was Deputy Director of CIA, then he was the Director of the National Security Agency, then he moved on to the board of, wait for it, Science Applications International Corporation.
Who's this?
Admiral Bobby Ray Inman. President Carter was at an event in Spain, and he was asked, what was it like being the most powerful man in the world? And Mr. Carter said, I don't think I was that person. And they said, why? He said, there are things that as president I wasn't allowed to know about. And someone kind of giggling, joking, kind of making fun of it. Oh, you mean UFOs? And he said, yes, that and more.
Carter said this.
Carter said that. President Carter.
President Trump is asked the other day by Logan Paul about UFOs. His answer was very generic. This one man told me that there are things up there, but, he wasn't really given the answer.
Well, no, because, as what president said, I'm only the president. There was some, that needs to change.
To say I'm only the president and not know stuff is crazy.
Let me tell you this, right?
Yeah.
Take of this what you like.
Yep.
Yeah. I was in bed with a woman, and that's it. That's the end of my story. No, I was in bed. I was in bed with a woman, right? I'm lying on the pillow and I'm looking at her face, right? Her face turned into what I could only describe as a reptilian.
A lizard.
My face went, oh my God. She looks at me and she says, I'm not a reptilian. Boom! Take it, make of that what you will. That's what happened.
I don't know who Buddy is, but that was a crazy story, bro.
Do you know who Joseph McGonigal is?
No.
Joseph McGonigal was like, he was remote viewer #1.
Oh, interesting.
He was the first guy.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
they gave him an assignment once without him knowing like where he was looking into. And what it turned out that he was looking into Mars 1 million years ago. And when he looked into Mars 1 million years ago, Mars was falling apart. And there were beings on Mars that were going into hibernation. They had built pyramids and all these structures, and they had to leave Mars because Mars was being destroyed, their atmosphere was being destroyed, and they had to come to Earth. And what he surmised from that is that what we are is the children of the people of Mars. That's why we're so different from all the other primates.
There's a whole movie dedicated to that exact premise.
Really?
Called Mission to Mars.
Who's in it?
Gary Sinise.
What year was this?
2000. Yeah.
Okay.
Mission to Mars. Yeah. And that's exactly the premise of the entire movie.
And so the premise of the movie is that these people,
they go on a mission to Mars. They see like a structure on the surface of Mars, so they go and they check it out.
Whoa.
And then like that's the whole thing.
And they realize that Mars, well, you know, this is not outside of the realm of possibility.
No, not at all.
And one of the reasons why I say that is like they've recently found structures on Mars that are so obviously man-made that it's almost impossible to deny. Like I showed it to Elon and he's like, oh, we should go look at it.
Let's talk about machines that weren't supposed to exist. Not prototypes trapped in some Hollywood script. Not fringe basement experiments. I'm talking about documented technologies that slipped into public view just long enough to prove they worked before they vanished. First up, Tom Ogle, 1977, a 26-year-old mechanic in Texas who modified a Ford Galaxy with a vapor fuel system. No battery, no hybrid motor. Local journalists witnessed it firsthand. 200 miles on just 2 gallons of gas. No tricks, no secret wires. He claimed his system could push over 100 miles per gallon, consistently. The story went national. A few months later, he was dead, and his technology caught in legal quicksand. Whatever he built, it scared someone enough to make sure it never hit the market. Then there's Stanley Mayer, the man who said he could run a dune buggy on water. Yeah, water. His water fuel cell used high-frequency resonance to split hydrogen and oxygen on demand. He gave public demonstrations. He filed multiple patents. And his work drew interest from both European investors and the US military, including classified briefings. In 1998, he dies suddenly after a dinner with 2 Belgian businessmen. His brother claims his final words were, "They poisoned me." Whether you believe that or not, what matters is this: his tech was never reproduced. His research vanished. Next up, the JEET reactor, G-E-E-T, developed by Paul Pantone, a bizarre-looking system that used fuel vapors in a plasma-like reaction to allegedly increase mileage and drastically cut emissions. Some scientists called it crude but promising. Others said it violated known combustion principles. But the kicker? Pantone ended up institutionalized. His supporters say it wasn't because of mental instability, but because he refused to hand over the full schematics. No blueprints disappeared. JEET is now a ghost tech, half legend, half locked box. Then we come to a bombshell from MIT in 2015. A researcher developed a battery prototype that charged in under 30 seconds, didn't require lithium, and was scalable for commercial use. It was safe, clean, and potentially world-changing. And then, nothing. Funding evaporated. The lab shut it down. The public never saw a follow-up. No official reason, it just quietly dissolved. But this next one isn't theoretical. It's on public record. The Shell MPG Challenge. In the 1970s and 80s, Shell Oil sponsored a competition to build the most fuel-efficient car using real parts. No sci-fi, just engineering. One entry reached 376 miles per gallon.
Whoa.
Tested, verified, never produced.
Whoa.
Shell never followed up with production partners. No patents were pushed forward.
Whoa.
They shelved the data. And then there's the Volkswagen XL1, the most efficient car ever built for public sale. A sleek diesel hybrid that got over 260 miles per gallon.
Crazy.
It was real, street legal. A handful hit the roads in Europe in 2013.
Really?
And then Volkswagen pulled the plug, citing lack of interest. But inside sources said otherwise. It was too expensive to mass produce and too disruptive to justify the risk. Because if you sell a car that needs almost no fuel, what happens to the oil industry, the repair shops, the entire aftermarket economy? These weren't fringe experiments. These were proof of concept threats, and each time the pattern repeated. They came out, they worked, and then they were gone.
They sedated you.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the thought process behind it when you talked to a doctor about this? What did they tell you was wrong with you?
They told me I was bipolar. And I remember going on TMZ and saying, slavery is a choice. And they medicated me for saying that, for having that opinion and saying it out loud. But as I put those contracts up, I'm saying, this is a choice. As
you didn't mean people being abducted and brought into slavery and put into chains was a choice. What you were talking about is people making decisions that would enslave them financially and enslave their life.
Yeah.
But it was taken out of context, and it was taken in the least charitable way, and they decided to try to say, look at crazy Kanye, look at this shit he's saying.
Crazy, man.
So let me jump in there. So if you actually survive the cut, let's call it phase one. You're successful, you're a name, and now you're in a place to either renegotiate or your deal is up or whatever. I once had a conversation with a very powerful music executive, and I said, and I was friends with the guy, so I was like, give me the insider psychology here. Now that I know the game that you run, what do you tell people like me when they get here? And he says, oh, it's just, there's always a price. So they know that even if you get through the matrix of the whole thing and get out the other side, that there's just a dollar amount that will buy you back in.
Whoa.
They're not.
That's crazy.
In this dark world we're in, I've noticed a pattern in what is being represented. People think that this stuff is just a game. There is a reason why you see people dressed up as Satan, not just, like Satan slipping himself in a little bit. No, full on visuals of Satan, people dressed as Satan, dressed as a demon, got upside down crosses all on their clothes or pentagrams on their clothes. And people are just like, oh, that's funny. It's, we're making fun. No, there's a reason why the entertainment industry is doing that, y'all. They know good and doggone well that God exists. They also know that Satan exists. They're just counting on the fact that y'all don't know that. But either way, the things that you take in, that they're feeding you, those things affect you. Whether you realize it in the moment or not, they affect you. That's why they do it. Entertainment industry, it's about influence. I'm not gonna sacrifice the honesty in order to be politically.
I respect that.
Rock stars are better to the record labels when they die in their peak and they're frozen in time like that. You know what I mean? Like Kurt Cobain, man, that guy is just a legend.
Janis Joplin.
Yeah. You don't get to see them do their shitty albums and start doing commercials and shit. You know what I mean?
Selling margarine.
Yeah. You don't get to see that. So that kills that legendary status.
Yeah.
But when you you don't think record companies know that shit?
That's a fact.
It was proved at the turn of the century that the human body is almost 80%, 90% water, and it's also got electrolytes in it, which we know to be salt, potassium, different minerals. That means we're a salt battery. No different than the car battery, different than something like that. And there's a patent actually called the Cali patent, which I'll hold up here for the camera to see. And this patent actually was developed in 1897, and not much has been done with it, because at that time everyone was afraid of electricity. In this case, Dr. Clark developed a a product using a 9-volt battery. And I'll just show you in the back here. There it is, 9-volt battery. And this particular unit, you just snap on your wrist with 2 wristbands.
We only have a minute. Yeah.
You snap it on your wrist just to prove that I'm a circuit. I push the little green light, and the thing is on. And if I put my hands together, you can hear that I'm a circuit, and I'm a closed circuit at this point. Now with
Why do we get a sound when you put your hands together?
because I've closed the circuit. Now when I take my hands apart, obviously the electricity is now being able to flow through the body.
1897.
Because whenever an inventor creates something that they think will bring great value to the world, they do something called file a patent, which is a system that offers inventors a temporary monopoly on their invention in exchange for sharing it with the world. In theory, a very mutually beneficial agreement. Society gains an invention that advances us, and the inventor makes a lot of money and gains recognition. The idea of patents was created in 1474 in Venice to encourage innovation when they enacted the Venetian Patent Statute. But in 1951, the US passed the Invention Secrecy Act, allowing them to keep certain technologies and inventions a secret legally. If they determine an invention to be detrimental to society, they can classify it, and their inventors are bound by law to not talk about it. Now, if a big company can't lobby a reason to invoke this act on a patent that happens to be detrimental to their wallet, they can simply offer the inventor a lot of money to outright buy the rights to their technology patent and just never put it to use. This practice is known as black shelving, buying patents for the purpose of never putting them to use. And if inventors refuse that, there are other ways to make sure their technology never gets out there, as there are countless cases of this happening, especially when it comes to anything involving cheap, accessible energy. Like the time this guy, Stanley Meyer, invented a car that can run purely on water. And it was all over the news, using a process known as electrolysis, which used electricity to split water molecules, H2O, into oxygen and hydrogen gas, using the hydrogen gas to power the engine, which we know is real. We have hydrogen cars today, although they don't run on water, but rather hydrogen gas pumped directly into the engine, which is expensive and not very accessible. Meyer called his invention a water fuel cell injector, and it was so impressive that scientists and engineers around the country inspected it and confirmed his technology works. In 1998, Stanley was signing a multi-million-dollar deal with investors at a restaurant when all of a sudden he fell incredibly sick, ran into the street, and started throwing up. He died shortly after, with his final words being, "They poisoned me," but his death certificate hid that, and they made up a story about a brain aneurysm. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to notice that this is a very inconvenient pattern among inventors of this type of technology, because Stanley was quite the inventor, one of which included an electromagnetic toroid-shaped device that was hit with a national security order, a torus that emits a toroidal energy field, essentially an energy donut, or a rodent coil, another controversial topic of many online free energy theories. A device that harnesses the unique properties of toroidal fields to create energy through a system called vortex-based mathematics, a 9-digit pattern that's also the foundation of that whole 369 thing that Nikola Tesla claimed to hold the key to understanding the universe, that appears to create energy in a closed system with near 100% efficiency, breaking the first 2 laws of thermodynamics, the thought of which makes physicists cry who insist it's physically impossible. But this concept was replicated in tests like mathematicians Marco Rodin's rodent coil and Victor Schoberger's vortex machine. Even NASA briefly experimented with an engine called the M-Drive, which used similar principles to produce energy and was quickly deemed pseudoscience and shut down. Now, Stanley Meyer's device didn't run on gas, electricity, or even water. It ran on nothing. Exactly where we find those quantum vacuum fluctuations, zero-point energy. Drawing energy from this zero-point field, Nikola Tesla and other scientists of our past called this field the ether, a layer beyond our dimension that we can't exactly see but can still interact with. Exactly what quantum mechanics is slowly beginning to prove. Ether was even officially listed as a 5th element in our education systems for centuries, and is also how the rumored Tartarian Empire, the Egyptians, Atlantis, and other advanced ancient cultures of our past are said to have drawn energy from the sky by extracting it from the ether that exists all around us, the zero-point energy field. But by the 1920s, scientists were forced to reject the notion of ether, conforming to the regular 4 elements as we know today. As we know, Tesla himself even tried experimenting with and bringing this technology into the modern world, but was also silenced from doing so. Let's hope I'm not next on their hit list.
All right, guys, that was another TikTok compilation, bro. That was very, very, very interesting. It was a lot of stuff in there, squad. If you made it this far, you a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments, bro. This right here, if this don't got your gears churning, bro. But listen, I got a lot of these, man. Yeah, if you into this stuff, you can binge watch. I got a TikTok playlist, but proceed with caution. But hey, till next time, man, self-love and positivity. Fire Squad, I got you and you know it.